Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective Podcast.
I'm the chairman of the board. I'm the chairman of the board.
Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective. I'm your host, Chairman Mark Billingsley. This show is designed for you, and we hope to give you a pretty good look into your Shelby County. Whether it's dedicated clerks staffing our county offices or our busy mayor who works with the commission to ensure we're leading Shelby County. So stick with us as we bring you the latest on everything Shelby County. On today's show, we've got a great friend to many of us, Mayor Lee Harris, as well as Deputy Chief Administrative Officer Dr. LaSonya Hall. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Chairman's Perspective.
I'm the chairman of the board.
The Chairman's Perspective on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Inside 901.
Inside 901. I am your host, Lieutenant Anthony Buckner. Here on Inside 901, we will unpack the vision of Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner and the various divisions of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
We have a racial profiling policy at the Sheriff's Office. We are here to it. We expect our officers to adhere to it.
Uniform patrol that provide police services to unincorporated Shelby County.
Inside 901.
KUDZUKIAN, chairman of the board.
Welcome back. Let's get right to it. We welcome Mayor Lee Harris. Thank you, Mayor, for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
We're very happy to have you here. Thank you for making time for us. And we also have Deputy Chief Administrative Officer Dr. LaSonya Hall.
Thank you.
I can tell you since becoming chairman and my last past year on the commission, it's honestly been a great pleasure to work with Mayor Harris and Ms. Hall. Again, we're here to talk about the 200th celebration of Shelby County coming up, a 200-year celebration. Before we get into that, Mayor, I think you're a familiar face on TV. People know your voice on the radio, but what's something that we would not know about you? What's something that your mom or dad or your neighbor would say about Lee Harris?
That's a very good question. So I think I'm excited about Christmas music.
I am too.
You know that I could play Christmas music all year long if my wife would let me, and she won't. But we're now in that period where I can live my best life and I can play Christmas music. And in fact, I started taking piano lessons probably a couple of years ago. And I started taking piano lessons a couple of years ago just so I could play piano music. I mean, Christmas music on the piano when, the family comes over and try to sing Christmas carols.
So how are you doing with your lessons?
It's incredible to just take piano lessons and to make progress. And to see what you can learn even at my age. And it's just been a lot of fun. So I made a lot of progress. Last year I could play Christmas music, level 1 Christmas music. And now I look at that music this year, a year later, and I think to myself, was I playing that? It almost feels like a joke. I say, man, I can do a lot better than that now. It's just, so it's just fun. You think you can't do a thing, and then you set off to do it, and you just bite it off piece by piece, inch by inch, and the next thing you know, you're playing the piano. Good
for you, Mayor. I'm impressed, and I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Sheet music would be great.
We're here also with Dr. LaSonya Hall, our Deputy Chief Administrator. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Share with everybody your duties as Deputy Chief Administrator.
As Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, I have the pleasure of serving Mayor Harris in a variety of ways. I work under the direction of Chief Dwan Gillum, who's our Chief Administrative Officer, and I pretty much provide oversight over all of the county divisions, which include Public Works, our Office of Community Services, Office of Planning and Development, Human Resources, Finances. So it's sort of the overarching position that looks at the day-to-day operations of the county.
But similar to Mayor Harris, public service is not new to you.
No.
Before the county, you had a robust career as well.
Absolutely. I had the pleasure of working in a variety of leadership roles at the city of Memphis, which included working in the CAO's office as well as Deputy Director of Parks and Neighborhoods. So I had a wonderful opportunity to serve the citizens of Memphis, and I'm now enjoying the opportunity to expand that ability to serve the county residents.
Very good. Mayor, I have to tell you, you've really been successful in putting together a great leadership team. Honestly, what did you look for when you selected different directors? Because you've really put on a great number of successful persons. We just announced the other day, Ms. Crosby will be joining us as our CFO. We've got Director Hall, our health director. How do you make those decisions for such critical roles that affect thousands of people in Shelby County?
So I think each one of those decisions has been different, but kind of one of the threads that applies to all of them is we try as best we can to follow a process. If you try as best you can to follow a process, then talent will reveal itself, and you'll be in a position to really recruit some high quality individuals. So we've been really fortunate. A good portion of the process was led by the transition team and Paul Morris, who's a small business owner, Jack Morris, Auto Lies here in Memphis. So he led a great portion of that and worked really, really hard to make sure we stuck to a process, and vetted names and, interviewed and see who kind of bubbled up from each one of those processes. And then we, had additional processes, obviously, with our CEO, Patrice Thomas, and our current CEO. So that's the important thing. I think if there was a lesson here, it's just that you've really got to try as best you can to articulate a process and then follow it wherever it leads.
Right.
And you can really get some great talented people. And they're great talented people here who are really committed to service. That's another positive takeaway here is that there's so many people in our community that are just have so many skill sets. I mean, it takes a lot of different kinds of skills to do the kind of work that is done on the administrative side. You've got to be a relationship person. You've got to have tough skin.
Right.
You've got to be an operational person. You got to know a little bit of finance and have some technical skill too from time to time. So there's just a whole lot of things that are going on from day to day when you think about all the various people in our leadership roles, and they could be doing a whole lot of things, but they have really chosen to devote their talents to service in our community.
So, Mayor, a big change from going from being a legislator to a mayor?
Yeah, huge change from going a legislator and a mayor. I think I really valued all the experiences I've had. So I taught at the University of Memphis and practiced law for a couple of years at Baker Donaldson, served in the Memphis City Council, served in the State Senate for 4 years. There is a big change. So when you're on the legislative side, either on the local level and certainly at the state level, it is totally a team approach. I mean, it is all the time figuring out how to build coalitions and build teammates and work with other people, which is a very good thing to experience. And so, that was my major takeaway from working at the state level, because of course every bill has to originate in one chamber, but you got to find a teammate in another chamber. And then you got to talk to a lot of different people to try to make sure that bill gets some momentum. So it's a very, very tough thing to do. And so, I'm proud of that experience. At the executive level, you still a lot of teamwork and certainly working with the county commission. And this is different and more challenging in some ways than City Hall, because, you've got not just the commission, which is the legislative branch, but you also have other elected officials and, and you have a little bit more diversity of opinion in terms of the county as compared to the cities. The county is, 7 municipalities. So I've got seven mayors. And so there's a little bit more diversity of opinion. So it makes it tough to do some things. But it's great. It's invigorating. I mean, so the executive branch is wonderful. I think nobody who serves in the executive branch ever wants to go back to the legislative branch. We'll see, because it's more fun if you're committed to trying as best you can to move the needle on things. But there are lots to be learned at the legislative branch that I bring to the current job. So it's been fun, and I couldn't be happier with the work we're doing.
Well, Mayor, thank you so much. In just a moment, we're going to be back. We're going to talk about the 200th year celebration of Celebrate Shelby County coming up soon, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
The Chairman's Perspective on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Hey, I'm Williams Brack, co-host of Grind Set. The insight you gain from us and our guests will motivate you to take the leap into entrepreneurship. Make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast provider.
Grind Set on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN!
We are back with the Chairman's Perspective, and today we're talking about all things Shelby County and the Celebrate Shelby 200-year commemoration of our magnificent county. We're joined today by Mayor Lee Harris and Deputy Chief Officer Dr. LaSonya Hall. Again, Mayor and Director Hall, thank you so much for being here today. It's been fun so far. Let's talk about the upcoming event, Celebrate Shelby 200-year anniversary. Tell me what that is.
Absolutely. Well, Celebrate Shelby represents a collaboration of all of the municipalities throughout Shelby County in an effort to honor and commemorate the rich history of this county. We titled it Celebrate Shelby because it does accentuate the 200 years that this county has been in existence, but it also is a catapult for us to look forward and the possibilities that are afforded to us as Shelby County residents.
It's wonderful. Mayor, I want to compliment you. I think you've done a magnificent job with this event, especially incorporating all the cities and municipalities in this 200-year celebration of Shelby County. How's that come together, and what's your work been like with the municipal cities and mayors? What's that been like?
So Shelby County, of course, is comprised of 7 great municipalities: Arlington, Bartlett, Collierville, Memphis, Millington, Lakeland, and Germantown. And each one of those municipalities is great in its own way and is special and is led by a really terrific leader. And so that's one of the real upsides of this job, is you get a chance to interact with those municipal mayors. There are frequent meetings on one topic or another with those mayors, and they're all really, really committed to their communities, and they're committed to Shelby County as a whole and what we can do to advance our collective interests. At the same time, I should also mention, it's really not just those 7 cities. There's also the 3 counties that border us, Lauderdale, Tipton, and Fayette, and those county mayors. And we also end up spending some time working with those county mayors and figure out, how we can promote our shared interests. So it's been great all around, specifically with respect to the 200th anniversary and the planning there. We'll, of course, recognize some of the historical leaders in Shelby County, some of those past mayors like Bill Morris, and we've brought him over to the county building before. But there are 5 living county mayors right now, and so we will certainly honor them, but also honor the municipal mayors. So we'll have at least one segment where we can bring the municipal mayors up and hear from one of those municipal mayors. We currently believe that Mayor McDonald, the mayor of Bartlett, is the longest serving municipal mayor of the 7, and so we'll make sure to mention that one way or another. Bartlett, of course, sits in the center of our county, as he says, and so we'll be pleased to make some remarks about the uniqueness of each one of those cities. So no, it's been fantastic. We've learned a lot about our county during this process, and it's just really been fun to work with so many different people who care about our community.
Well, I know, Mayor Harris, you're a family man and you've got young children. Ms. Hall, there's a lot of activities planned for the 200th year celebration. So what do we have to look forward to at Shelby Farms? Absolutely, and I'm glad you started it off with a family fun event. First of all, let me stress that the entire event, which occurs on Sunday, November 24th from 1 o'clock p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at Shelby Farms Park, will be free. Every activity, every event, the music, all of that is free. So we welcome families to come out. It will be a day of family fun and fellowship for all Shelby County residents. And the family activities include rock climbing, trampolines, touch a truck. We'll have various trucks and vehicles from all of the municipalities. We'll have a double-decker bus, and we'll allow children and their moms and dads to explore what it's like to ride on a fire truck or to touch the sheriff's office cars and vehicles. We'll have Y on the Fly, petting zoo, a cornhole tournament, sports action stations, face painting, and we'll have food trucks and local merchants. We wanted to make sure that we encourage our local merchants to be a part of this because we want to celebrate what is Shelby County. And we will end this afternoon of family fun with a spectacular fireworks show, which will be the first that I understand at Shelby Farms. So it is truly a historic event. Mayor, if you're from Shelby County like myself and you take a lot of things for granted. I think sometimes if you're from Memphis, you take you just expect everyone to have a Mississippi River. You expect everyone to have a Shelby Farms. But really, we're really unique, Mayor. Tell us a little bit about Shelby Farms. I mean, there's nothing really like it. Our park rivals Central Park. No doubt about it. It's really one of the special places in our community and in America. One of the largest urban parks in America, 3 million visitors a year. And the way it was created is really of historical significance. So you got to remember, we were at a point in time when that farmland that now is Shelby Farms Park was just a farm. And it was part of our prison complex. And the prisoners would farm
on the farmland. They would, raise crops and try to generate food for the prisoners. And that's what Shelby Farms was, just a penal farm, just a place for our prisoners. And over time, with leadership from Lamar Alexander to Bill Morris, I hate to start saying names because there's a lot of people that played a role, Mallory Neely, there's just a whole lot of people that forged ahead and said this penal farm, this prison could be a lot more. And what they did was they carved out one section of it for the Agri Center, and the Agri Center is a unique special place all to its own. At the Agri Center we have an agricultural research park, and we have a showplace arena. I don't know if there's another place in America that has those kinds of features in one spot. I think we're probably the only place in America, and the Agri Center as a result is constantly recruiting agricultural tenants, particularly in the ag tech space. And we have lots of visitors to our showplace arena. So we have about 1 million visitors over there a year. And the other section of Shelby Farms, the much larger portion of it, was made into a park. And it's, like I said, one of the largest urban parks in America. The walking trails are incredible. And that's one of the real benefits of my current job is I get to see a lot of these assets and really spend some time there because, there are, rivers that run through it and forests and open space and paddle boats and buffalo. There is all sorts of things to be seen at Shelby Farms, and it's just a great place and a real asset to our community.
Well, we've got less than a minute left. Dr. Hall, what kind of musical acts?
Thank you for asking. We will have featured on the T-Mobile stage Savannah Brister, Marcella and her lovers, and Kevin and Bethany Page. So it's going to be a spectacular day with wonderful musical acts.
I think it's amazing that Shelby County is able to put this on to celebrate with all our municipal.
Absolutely.
I hear there's a passport.
So yes, there is a passport. You mentioned that some folks don't get a chance to enjoy the Mississippi River. We want to make sure that each guest that participate on Sunday has an opportunity to travel through Shelby County. And so they'll use their passports to actually visit each of the municipalities. They'll get their passport stamped. And at the end of their passport stamping, they will receive a cupcake. And what's a birthday celebration without cupcakes?
We'll be right back.
The Chairman's Perspective on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Jazz, America's own original musical art form. When did it start? Who were and are some of the major players? How do you distinguish what kind of jazz you're listening to? We talk about the great and lesser-known artists, songs and tunes, the instruments, and the social impact jazz has had on world culture since its beginning at the start of the 20th century.
Riffin' on jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN!
Chairman of the board.
We are back with the Chairman's Perspective, and today we're talking all things Shelby County as we celebrate the 200th anniversary of Shelby County. We're here today. We're honored to have Mayor Lee Harris and Deputy Chief Administrative Officer Dr. LaSonya Hall. Again, thank you so much for spending some time. Dr. Hall, can you sort of recap everything with the celebration at Shelby Farms?
Absolutely. On Sunday, November 24th at Shelby Farms Park from 1 o'clock to 5:30 p.m., we are hosting the Birthday Bash of a Century. We are inviting all families, all Shelby County residents to Shelby Farms Park to celebrate for a free birthday party. For more information, we invite our county residents to look us up, CelebrateShelby.com. We will have family-friendly activities. It's all free thanks to the leadership of Shelby County Govt. It should be a day full of fun, and we invite everyone to come out.
Well, the fireworks sound amazing.
Absolutely.
Any idea what time the fireworks will start?
The fireworks show will start between 5:15 and 5:30. We're anticipating sunset around that time because we're in the fall months. But everything will kick off from 1. We have musical acts, which include Savannah Brister, Marcella and her lovers, Kevin and Bethany Page. Wow. It will be emceed by Ron Childers from Channel 5. We'll have each municipality out on the grounds representing and demonstrating what's so wonderful about each of their cities. We'll have cupcakes for everyone. And we just look forward to having as many residents from Shelby County out there celebrating with not only Mayor Harris, but our commissioners as well. So we look forward to a day full of fun.
Well, Dr. Hall, I want to thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to thank all the Shelby County staff members that have worked so hard on this event, as well as Mayor Harris. What a celebration. Again, free admission at Shelby Farms. So We'll look forward to that. Mr. Mayor, again, thank you for being here. I know you have been extremely busy. You've become a champion for many, many causes, but one that's still very relevant, and we've got a long way to go, is public transportation in Shelby County. And if we could spend just a few minutes on that, I'd be grateful. You have been really working very hard, going out and meeting with different groups. I've joined you on a couple of those. Where do you think it stands? What are you hearing back from citizens in Shelby County as it relates to public transportation?
Well, I'm hopeful that we've got some momentum on transit and that we'll be able to get something done. But it takes a lot of work. So historically, as you know, Shelby County has not invested in Memphis Area Transit Authority, and so but it's important that we take a role and make an investment there. I think there are significant benefits from increased investment in favor of transit. I usually boil that benefit down to the 3 E's. The first E being environment, that if you invest in transit, you can produce many more transit rides, which ends up meaning that many more cars are taken off the roads, and some of the carbon and other emissions that come from those cars are removed from the environment. You know, one of the major conditions in our emergency room with respect to kids is asthma. And so transit helps to move that issue forward. The second E is economy. For years in our community, people have talked about the number of open jobs we have. If you go to jobs4tn.com, you'll find at least 16,000 open jobs. And one of the highest responses when you ask people who are unemployed, why don't you take one of these open jobs? The number one response is, I don't have transportation to get to it. So it helps to grow our economy. And the third E is equity. It's just the idea that we are a community with a lot of bright spots, but we do have poverty in this community. That's just the reality. And transit is one of the ways you get people access to jobs and start to chip away at some of the folks who live in poverty. So those are my 3 E's, if I can persuade your listeners, Mr. Chairman, around why we need to invest in transit and why I believe that this year is probably the year where the county needs to get involved in MATA.
Well, I think the timing's good. The county will start working on its budget process very, very soon. Have you heard any innovative suggestions? I know you've heard it and I've heard it when people suggest light rail, for example, but as much as I want light rail, I don't think many people realize the cost of light rail. For example, Mr. Mayor, what would a mile of light rail cost in Shelby County?
It could cost up to $100 million of light rail, so it is very expensive, no doubt about it. So I am of the belief that we should take our cue from some of the transit experts, and most of them would tell you that if we wanted to get involved in transit, we've got to start with making our bus system work a little bit better. We've got 44 routes, and some of those routes don't come very frequently. They come an hour or more, and so if you're waiting on a route that only comes an hour or more, you can't really rely on that route for work. It's just a ride, but it's not transit. So we want to get that frequency down. In other words, get the wait time down as much as we can so people can rely on those buses for work. And then I think we can have a conversation, even one that's really expensive, have a conversation around light rail and see where it is. But light rail, you know, it's expensive, and the proposition is probably a 2 or 3 year conversation. But you can't even start that 2 or 3 year conversation until you've kind of exposed the county, given us an experience on transit, which usually that opening experience is buses.
And I know we've got some dynamic leaders in Shelby County. We've got Federal Express, we've got Service Master, AutoZone. A lot of people don't realize this public transportation issue is a workforce issue. Yep. How does workforce and MATA, how does that relate?
So no doubt about it. So when it comes to economic development, there are a couple of tools in the toolkit. One is the pilot and tax breaks and things that really make headlines and sometimes stir some controversy because people can have opinions about those tools. But the other part of economic development that does not stir any controversy and that everybody agrees with is supporting our workforce. And you can support the workforce in a bunch of ways. Transit is one way. That's what we're talking about now. But there's also workforce training. Those are economic development programs that everyone supports. And so we should be talking more about, and at least as much as we talk about other economic development programs. And I think the FedExes of the world and everybody in our community agrees that workforce is a really important priority.
Have you heard anything from your town hall meetings specifically that surprised you at all? The town hall I've attended with you was pretty passionate about public transportation. Again, we were in a struggling part of South Memphis, I think, that afternoon, and without more public transportation, the reality is working families can't get to work.
I think the thing that maybe surprised me the most is how much people want to talk about light rail.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the most surprising piece. They want to talk about light rail right now, and I'm prepared to talk about light rail. But you got to kind of take these things in stages. And given the expense of light rail, it's a bigger bite. We can do it, but we've got to do these things in stages.
I know you set a goal to come back to the Shelby County Commission with a vote on MATA. What is the date for that?
So we know this is a heavy lift, and so we programmed in about 6 months of engagement with the community and with the commission. So I delivered the initial proposal to the county commission September the 4th. And my hope is that we'll be in a place in February where the commission can consider some action. That's right before our budget period, which is also another opportunity to revisit transit. So that's the hope, is that when we get around February and or during the budget period, that we'll be in a position to talk about how the county can sustainably invest in transit. And I'm hopeful that we'll see more ideas surface over that time. So I proposed one idea, but it's to get the conversation started. And I have always said that I'm open to any idea that gives the county an opportunity to make a significant investment in transit, because transit has so many benefits. So if we get multiple ideas, I think that'll be the best case scenario, because then I think we can have a real robust discussion.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. We've had a great show today, and we know more about the county's commitment to its citizens and plans for a world-class 200-year celebration of Shelby County. I want to thank my guests, Mayor Lee Harris, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer Dr. LaSonya Hall. I'm just a phone call, text, or email away. We've enjoyed you here on The Chairman's Perspective, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We'll see you next time.
The Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Executive producer Shelby County Commission's Chairman Mark Billingsley. Directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.
I'm the chairman of the board. I'm the chairman of the board. I'm the chairman.